Addiction is a disease that impacts all of us. Whether you, your neighbor, friend, or family member is struggling, everyone feels the pain of addiction. Recovery Centers of America wants you to know that addiction treatment works and recovery is possible. Call 1-888-RECOVERY now for help for yourself or a loved one. Recovery Centers of America, Capital Region, and Bracebridge Hall have helped thousands of patients in the D.C., Maryland area start a better, healthier way of life through their evidence-based inpatient and outpatient treatment programs. The caring team of physicians and clinicians at RCA see their patients as so much more than their addiction and are deeply committed to providing expert care with heart. Recovery Centers of America knows that every day in active addiction is a day in isolation, which is why they admit new patients 24/7 year-round. Don't wait. Make the call that can change everything. Call 1-888-RECOVERY now. That's 1-888-RECOVERY.
Not to be dramatic, but I'm obsessed with how much I just saved at Kohl's. I got 25% off Nike clothes for the kids, the cutest $39.99 flex hoodie for me, and got great Columbia gear for all our outdoor adventures. Did I mention the extra 20% off and the Kohl's cash I got? So yeah, not sure what I love more, fall deals or fall weather. Select styles, 20% offer ends October 3rd. Some exclusions apply. See store or kohls.com for details.
Welcome, readers. Today on Book Chat, joining me is my fantasy series co-host, Casey. We'll be discussing book 1 in the Fallen Angel series, Covet, written by J.R. Ward. Stay tuned. Today's episode is sponsored in part by Amazon Music. Check it out. It has 70 million songs, thousands of playlists. You can listen without commercials. Sign up today and get your first month for free using the Shelf Addiction link. Go to getamazonmusic.com/shelf addiction and sign up today. Again, the code is Shelf Addiction. The link is also in the show notes. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and welcome to Book Chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Participate in this discussion by joining the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official. I hope to hear your thoughts on today's topic. You can always find me and Casey on Twitter and Instagram. The links for everything I've mentioned are below in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support this podcast by sharing it with some book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. That would really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing so. The uncut video version of this podcast is available now on Patreon. Join us there for exclusive videos, including after shows and more. So if you're interested in that at all, you'll need to come on over to Patreon and sign up. Without further ado, let's get started. Welcome back to another fantasy series read-along discussion, and today we are talking about the very first book in a new series, the Fallen Angel series, Covet. Woo! Joining me is my fantasy series read-along co-host, Casey from Heart Full of Ink. Welcome back, Casey.
Hello. I'm so excited to be back doing our read-along.
Yes. I'm excited. It's our fall time start, and I'm super excited for it. Yeah, it's perfect for fall, actually, all the things in this book. So you guys, as we do, here's a little info on the book if you aren't familiar with it. So Covet was first published September 29th, 2009 by Signet. And later of that same year, the audiobook was published by Brilliance Audio. The audiobook is narrated by Eric G. Dove and has an unabridged runtime of 14 hours and 42 minutes. Yeah, that's really long. And the actual book itself is 474 pages is the mass market paper book size. So yeah.
Nice Casey, little book. I'm holding it right here in my hand.
I know it's a thick little chunker right there.
It is. It's a little brick.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if you would, Casey, would you give us the synopsis?
Absolutely. From the #1 New York Times bestselling author of the wickedly sexy Black Dagger Brotherhood novels comes an explosive new series. Redemption isn't a word Jim Heron knows much about. His specialty is revenge, and to him, sin is all relative. But everything changes when he becomes a fallen angel and is charged with saving the souls of 7 people from 7 deadly sins. And failure is not an option. Vin DiPietro has surrendered himself and to his business until fate intervenes in the form of a tough-talking, Harley-riding, self-possessed savior and a woman who makes him question his destiny. With an ancient evil ready to claim him, Vin has to work with a fallen angel, not only to win his beloved over, but to redeem his very soul.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's all the things like angels and demons,
prostitutes,
and
church.
Yes, and church.
And church.
And I think this is a good place to start if you are, this is my opinion, if you are brand spanking new to J.R. Ward and you haven't read her Black Dagger Brotherhood series and you're like, I don't know if I like her paranormal stuff. I think this is a good start because number one, I don't know if you guys know, but I'm going to share some tidbits with you. If you have not read her and you start with her BDB series, you're going to be thinking there are typos and errors all over the place.
Yep. This woman likes to add in extra letters and syllables and just make shit up.
And slang that you've never heard of. There's a dictionary in the back of some of the books. But this doesn't have that. It's regular schmegular with exception of, I think, one or two names might be a little bit oddly spelled. But, it's before she started using heavy slang or what she thought cool vampire slang is.
I have the flip side of that.
Okay.
So my background as it is, I read the first 10 Black Dagger Brotherhood books like 10 years ago. So late 2000s, I stopped, I think 2011 or 2012. So it's been a full ass decade since I've read J.R. Ward. And I never read the Fallen Angel series back then. So this is my first time reading Covet and seeing this world. And I think that the Black Dagger Brotherhood is better in the sense that it's more traditional paranormal romance. Like it is focused more so on the one couple and their relationship growth. Whereas this Fallen Angel book is all about, there's 3 main points of view. There's several different bad guys. Like there's so many plot threads that you have to follow. It's a really good book and we're about to dive into it. But if you want like a very traditional paranormal romance with the main couple and just focus on them falling in love, start with Dark Lover, start there.
But that doesn't stay that way. That series evolves into something that is not traditional paranormal romance.
Adequate.
Yeah.
There's a reason. We can deep dive into all of this. But if you want the traditional, go back to book number 1, Dark Lover. Go stick with the first 4 books and then you'll be safe.
Which is honestly, I'm surprised it's even tagged paranormal romance because when I read this, I just tagged it paranormal. I am not of the group on Goodreads with paranormal romance as the tag. So, yes, there's a little romance, but it's like secondary to the overall arc of this, of the story. So I don't know. I would love to know. They won an award.
Urban fantasy?
Maybe, but they won a award that we don't speak about anymore in 2010 for paranormal romance. So I guess that's its category, but it doesn't really fit.
We'll see. Anyway, this was a reread for you, right? This was your second time reading the book?
Yes, I read this, so long ago. I don't even know. I want to say back in 2009. I think I read it when it first came out. And I just blast through them. Like every time a new one came out, I was on it. And I read these before I started the Black Dagger Brotherhood books.
Really? That's interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I was reverse. I was Black Dagger Brotherhood all the way and then quit. And now here I am with the Fallen Angels.
Well, you know me. I like dark stuff. I like fantasy. I think more than paranormal romance. So this to me, like you said, it falls more like under urban fantasy to me. and it had that vibe. So I think that's why I gravitated to this first. Plus, look at the hot dude on the cover.
Yeah.
With
He's
a bike
really pretty.
and the abs, and there's no like girl on there like with her neck thrown back, and there's none of that stuff. So I'm like, what is this?
So like I said, this was my first time reading it, and I really loved it. It was a little slow, but it was very different and very unique, and also very J.R. Ward at the same time.
Yes.
The first two chapters, or whatever it was, when our one hero, Jim, sleeps with the non-prostitute at the club in his truck. And you're like, what am I getting into? Like, what is this story? And he's like trying to be a good guy. Like, I'm not going to actually sleep with her. I'm just going to go down on her. We're in a truck, for God's sake. And I was like, what is happening right now?
So did you feel like something was a little off with how, like, almost not virginal, but like innocent Jim perceived Davina to be?
Yes, it was very weird. Like, any woman who's at a strip club by herself wearing something just so fuck me, who's not actually a prostitute working there, is not going to be virginal. She's not going to be sweet. She's not going to be like, oh, I'm in this abusive relationship. He wants me to get breast implants. Save me. And he has to come and like rescue her with his dick. Like, what is happening?
I know.
The whole thing was weird.
She's just a delicate flower that I need to treat tenderly. Man, no.
No.
I was like, okay, Jim, this doesn't seem like a good start of things, does it?
Mm-hmm. And the fact that he was turning 40, not 18, like, come on, dude. You should have
experience.
A little bit of control over your dick.
I guess not with Davina in the blue dress. That's all I was thinking. Devil with the blue dress. Devil with the blue dress on. I'm like, woo, was that on purpose? Miss Ward, was that on purpose? I think it might have been.
I think they mentioned the song at one point.
Yeah, but her dress
it got stuck
blue.
in my head. Yeah. Like, I think they mentioned the song like in relation to her because it got stuck in my head afterward. Like, after they said it, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. But, like, well, you slept with the devil in the blue dress. Now what? The very next day. Yeah, the next day he goes to work and he sees this bitch. She like, oh my God.
And he dies.
Yeah.
Poor dude.
He dies.
He died a lot.
Yeah, he does die. I think that's like his thing is going to be dying. So, or I don't know, but he dies and he goes to like a place in between, not heaven, not hell, but a pretty looking place where there's some snooty British angels, which is very interesting.
Remember back when we watched Good Omens on Amazon Prime? We watched it on the podcast and, you and I did not like it at all.
Yeah.
I kept thinking about that angel and all of those angels. And I kept picturing them because he had the bow tie and the snooty British accent. And he's played by Michael Sheen, but I can't remember his name right now. Yeah, no, that's all I pictured when I read this. And I was like, I know it's 10 years later and not what she had all imagined, but that's what I'm picturing.
Same. Like bright green grass, white suits, blue skies, and that guy from Good Omens.
And that guy.
Yeah, and that guy. But yeah, so he goes and they're like, hey, dude, guess what? You're on our team and you didn't know it, but welcome. You got a job to do.
Gotta save some souls.
Gotta save some souls. 7 to be exact.
Mm-hmm. For the 7 deadly sins.
So then after, I kind of find it interesting how Jim interacts with the angels in heaven or how he gets information from them. Like when he first wakes up in the hospital, he's like, well, who am I supposed to save? What am I supposed to do? Because, they send him on this mission with very little information. And what happens?
Because they're dicks.
Yeah, exactly. They're rude. They can't give him any clues. But like stuff happens on the TV. It's like It's like, what is it? And then he sees something on the TV, and then here comes Vin strolling in, and he's like, oh, I guess you're it. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to get close to him? Cooking show. Oh, I guess we're supposed to have dinner. Let's have dinner. It's like, what?
When in doubt, watch TV, I guess. This is the moral of the story.
Yeah, I guess. But I guess the angels were giving clues through the TV, which was odd, but different.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
The whole thing was just so absurd. And that's J.R. Ward's style. She just takes the absurd and runs with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened over and over again in this book with, the other fallen angels that he starts working with jump around a little bit, Adrian and Eddie. Yeah. And they're just fucking absurd. They have fights all the time. It's hilarious when they call each other, Son and Gramps, and start rolling around on the dirt like wild animals.
Yeah, like the more obscene it can be, the better. Like in either direction, whether it's comedy or, things happening that are like really gross, or whether it's sex. Okay. Like everything is extreme in all directions. There's like nothing that's low key going on.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. No, Davina, the demon, is just,
this chick is one nasty person.
Disgusting and terrifying. And
so let's talk. Okay. So Davina is going to be an interesting villain for this series. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling she's going to throw you guys for a couple of loops, because in this book, we've been told she can appear as a woman, mm-hmm. as a man. We know she can make things look like they happened and they did not.
Mm-hmm.
She's like a demon.
Yeah. Stuff. They also said twice that she can appear as certain animals. And so for a second, I wondered if she was dog, but no, dog is too, nice and happy. And the fallen angels like him. So it's not dog, but I can tell you in future books, she's going to come back as some sort of animal, because they have mentioned it multiple times now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I believe you.
Probably
I'm not going to tell you anything else.
Demons and snakes, but yeah, no, I'm definitely like, okay, she's coming back as an animal.
Yeah. And the cool thing is about this series and me right now is that I read it so long ago. Like I remember high level things, but the little details were gone. So I felt like I was reading this like new. So like when Davina was doing things, I'm like, oh man, I forgot she did that. Oh, she's the worst. It was, I was getting all the feels like it was the first time around on some things, and other things I'm like, no, Jim, don't do it. You're a dummy. Don't sleep with her.
I was yelling that too. And this is my first time reading it. But like, the answer is always no. Don't sleep with a strange woman. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
And I mean, to Ven, when a woman tells you, hey, take this, go home, make a circle and lay in it, don't do it.
He was what? 17 at the time when he did it.
Yeah, he was a kid.
And he said he walked into the room and it smelled weird. And later he realized it smelled like sex. And I'm like, 17, you don't know what sex smells like?
He might have been a virgin at 17.
He must have been. Because, honey.
He was too distracted with all the visions he was trying to get rid of.
That's true.
Yeah, so Ven, he is a big guy, big boss, he's got a lot of money. He appears a certain way, but when you start getting more information on his background, he doesn't seem like he is that guy. And we find out he, had visions. He's had visions his whole life, and he did something to stop them. And this was this spell that like opened him up to Davina, and Davina was his fiance. We didn't mention that. So Davina was his fiance or girlfriend, for the beginning of this book, well, most of the book. And then we later found out it was like after he did that spell, like, yes, it got rid of his visions, but he also had like this unattainable drive, like this drive that couldn't be like explained.
Fulfilled.
Yeah, he couldn't fulfill no matter how much money he made, how wealthy he got, how much successful he was. There was no end to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he needed more money. He needed more stuff. He needed to be bigger, better than anybody around him. So of the 7 deadly sins, would you say he's greed?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, he was even greedy with the sex.
Explicitly say it, but yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Because he even said, like, yeah, we did dirty stuff, me and Davina, stuff that I'm not even really that interested in, basically, he said. Because, you know, when he had sex,
all the time.
Right. Like when he had sex with Marie Therese, you know, she kind of expressed like, you know, hey, I might be a prostitute, but I'm not doing all that crazy stuff. Do you remember that conversation?
Yes, I do. It was hilarious.
Yeah. And so it seems like, you know, Davina had his sex drive like working at a level that wasn't normal as well.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was twisting him up, twisting him around, making him want and need more and more and more and more and more.
Yeah. More everything. And from the outside, of course, anybody that looks too perfect, you gotta know. You gotta know.
Mm-hmm.
This woman always put together nail. Like, can you imagine like not a hair out of place on her? Her outfits always together, hair, nails, lashes, shoes, clothes, purse, everything, all the ways together. And she is whatever he needed her to be at the time.
Mm-hmm. And he could disappear for weeks at a time and not talk to her. And she was just totally fine with that.
Uh-huh.
No, bitch, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. She let him run off and make the money, and she was on his arm when he needed her, and she was pulling his strings the whole time, and he had no clue.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
Not until he looked into the eyes of a prostitute and realized he knew what love was.
Oh my God. They looked at each other across the room of the strip club, and she's running from a douchebag kid that's like trying to be aggressive. Like, you're a prostitute. You got to do what I say. And she's like, what?
She's like, no, back off.
So he spots her and she's like kind of trying to duck from this guy. And he's like instantly, you know, Goo eyes, like, who is that woman? Who is that? Forget Davina.
Must save her.
I know. It's like kind of ridiculous. I almost didn't buy it, but maybe...
A little bit of like, what is it? Suspension of disbelief. Because they kind of explained it when he's like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, I got that card of the Virgin Mary and it's exactly like her. And I just fell in love with that card. And so with the whole angels and demons, good versus bad versus evil versus whatever, like, okay, yeah. Some angel gave him the card of her picture and he fell in love with it. Like he imprinted on it like a little duckling when he was, 6 or whatever.
Yeah. So it was almost like destined or something. And the choice was, you know, do you stick with Davina, which Jim originally, you know, poor Davina, she's so soft and meek. She needs help. He originally thought that Vin's choice was to choose Davina until he realized, whoa, wait a minute.
Nope. Vin's in love with a prostitute.
Yes.
And Davina's a demon.
Yes. And she's a damn demon. So obviously it's not Davina.
Who'd have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it? I mean, my goodness. So it's a businessman, a wealthy businessman who actually mirrors her ex, who she had a horrible relationship with, you know, the wealth, the extreme wealth.
Extreme wealth, the controlling, the buying the woman just to keep her on his arm, the way he was doing with Davina. You know, the book opens up with him buying an engagement ring for her that he doesn't actually propose with, but becomes important later. But he's like, yeah, no, I'm just buying this ring because this is the next logical step. Like it doesn't matter. She's not here to look at their ring. I'm just picking out whatever the fuck I want to.
Yeah. He wants the most expensive ring. That's it. He doesn't care of the style.
Which then he asks for a discount on.
He did.
I had to roll my eyes at. Like, you cheap bastard.
He's like, I can give you this in cash. Call my bank. Like, okay. Okay, dude. Yeah, he's a big snob early on. And then once he came into interaction with Marie-Therese, he really started to change pretty rapidly. His other personality started to surface pretty rapidly.
Which was good, because we don't want him to be a douchebag anymore. We want him to be the good guy that he is deep down.
And to his misfortune, or to his luck, I think it's his luck, he pretty quickly had this awful nightmare, and I'm using air quotes, nightmare about Davina that I don't think was a nightmare at all.
Nope.
She is all gross looking, smelly, disgusting,
decaying zombie thing.
Yes. And she's like, "You're mine. I own you. Everything you have is because of me." She's like, "Oh shit." He wakes up. So gross. And she's like coming in the room, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Ew."
Looking all nice and pretty and done up and human-esque. And he's just like, no, I can't.
And after that, he's like, "I can't stand this bitch. I don't want anything to do with her. She is gross." Like something, even though he thought it was a dream at first, he was instantly like, something is wrong. Very wrong.
Yep. He didn't want to be around her. He didn't want to touch her. He didn't want to stay in the relationship with her. And at that point, Jim kept trying to push him together. He's like, "Yeah, you just got to propose. This is your crossroads, blah, 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 blah." Even though I slept with her, and I'm not telling you that I slept with her.
Which is also weird. I'm like, you're supposed to be trying to do this good thing, but it eventually comes out, and, Ben forgives him basically for being a douchebag, lying to him. But he had this weird kind of like camaraderie with Jim almost immediately. Like they just got along really well.
I mean, after they confessed to each other and started both talking about how they slept with her and how different she was, her personality was just completely different. I thought that was really interesting, because most guys wouldn't want to compare notes, And also, she's this demon thing. Like, what? Ew, no.
Well, as a demon, she probably knows what your desire is. Like, Lucifer, what's your desire? She knows.
Yep.
And so she's like, "I will appear however you need me to appear so that I can get what I want from you."
Mm-hmm. And for Jim, it was the virginal, scared woman. And for Vin, it was the very sexy woman who, would do wild shit.
She looks good on his arm, all that stuff. She's appropriate for his, lifestyle kind of thing. Not that he loved her. And he said, didn't love her. He
never loved her.
Yeah,
she was there. She was convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Which he fell in love with Marie-Therese, like, instantly.
Yeah.
Again, I'm buying it because magic and angels and demons and child imprinting on pictures and stuff like that. But it was still very fast.
Like it's all a little celestial in the background, and it's like, with the church stuff and all of that, it's kind of like making you suspend disbelief a little bit. And just be like, okay, fine.
Even for her, like it happened really fast. The last day, even though so much shit happened, she went to him to say, "I'm leaving. I don't want your money. I don't want your stuff. I can't be around you anymore. Like, we're done. It's done." And then they had sex, and then they had to go fight the demons, and then all this other stuff happened, and then he got shot, and
that's one hell of a day.
Happened. And then she's like, "Okay, let's move in together. I love you." And I'm like,
"Yeah,
I guess this day would change your mind." It's like a lot of shit went down.
I think when Davina showed up at the apartment, when they had just got finished, with their business, and here she comes, but blasted through the door. She's like, "Oh my God, what is this?" She knew something was wrong. And the woman was trying to talk to her like she wasn't shit, and she was trying to convince Vin that she was a cheater already. He doesn't even know the woman. He doesn't even know Marie-Therese. Remember, he was like, "Oh, she probably slept with Jim too," and da-da-da. And that was the point where someone told him, I can't remember which character told him, there's a point where you're going to have to choose to believe
Trey
something.
Told him.
Who?
Trey from the
yes.
club.
Yes, Trey. Shout out to Trey from BDB. Anyway, but he's like, look, you're going to have to believe what you think you see or believe what you know about her. And that was a time where he was like, he was on that line, like, I don't know. And then he kind of just was like, get out, Davina. Get out. Like, oh man, thank God. That could have went really wrong. But
yeah, no. And then Davina stole Marie's earring, which keeps freaking falling out. Like that thing was never in her ear. It just popped out and went everywhere.
I had an earring like that. I swear the backing, I think it was an error in the pole. Like, when they made the pole, I think the pole was a little too skinny because the backing just kept sliding off. And then I changed the backing and it would keep sliding off. I'm like, okay, it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be. I'm not wearing this earring. And that's what she should have been instead of losing that earring all over the place.
All over the place.
Yeah. So I can see how that can happen because that literally happened to me in real life. I'm like, for 2 weeks, I'm like, where's the earring? And it's like a stud. I'm like, where's the damn earring? It's in the bed. It's on the floor. It's in the car. I'm like, oh my God. So I just gave up and took them off.
Wondered if it was like divine intervention, because Jim finds it first and that brings him to Marie, but then it falls out and then Davina gets it. And I was like, maybe it's the devil's work. Devil's working through the earrings. I don't know. But it was just one of those little details where it's like, okay, yeah, no, earrings fall out, but it's weird that this one just keeps popping out and she won't stop wearing it.
No.
Like if it's falling out, maybe find a new pair.
I know, but she loved that pair. You know how to drill. She loved it.
She just loved it. She just wanted it.
I know. Okay, actually, I'm checking the time. Time check, guys. It's time for a break. So we are going to take a break, hear from our sponsors, check out the merch store, check out my book review journal. It's available on Amazon right now.
It's so cute, you guys.
It is. I love it. Every time I look at it, I just kind of brush the cover a little bit like, oh, it's so nice. Anyway, when we return, we will finish up our conversation. We will give our ratings and we'll chat about the next book. All right. Yes. Stay with us. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. And we're back. We are back. Thanks for hanging in through the commercials. We know it was tough, but we are back to finish out this conversation. So I did, before we kind of move forward with like how the book ended, I wanted to squeeze in a little bit about the audiobook before we get to the end of the book. Yes. I just don't want to forget about it. So I listened on audio this time, the first time I read it. And the narrator was Eric G. Dove, as I mentioned earlier. And he was kind of slow. His cadence was really slow. But if you can speed it up to 1.8 or even maybe 2, he still sounds normal. He sounds like a normal speaking person instead of Jim took his hand and open the car door.
No.
So there's that. I just want to let you guys know, like this narrator, his voice didn't really bother me. His voice was kind of neutral to me, but his cadence was very, very slow. And I do think that the book could have benefited from a female narrator in addition to him to kind of counter the Davina parts, the Marie-Therese parts. It needed a little bit of levity, and I think a female voice could have done that. But, Eric G. Dove read it all, and I did get used to it after a while, so it was fine. But ultimately, I'm going to recommend, if you can't listen faster, I'm going to recommend that you read it. So I just wanted to let you know that. But it is a long book. But the audiobook is long too. It's all long. It's long
It's
regardless.
all long. See, that's the thing about this book is that it is just so damn long. And there's just so much in it that doesn't necessarily like need to happen. You know, Marie Therese is being stalked by some guy who we originally think is her abusive ex-husband. Turns out, no, it's just some rando guy from prison who's obsessed with her because he also thinks she's Mother Teresa. And like, we had that whole plot line, and then we had the gym plot line, and then we had the falling in love plot line, and then we had the angels plot line. Like there was just so much in this book that, it's a hefty little fucker. Like it is. It's a solid book.
Yeah.
So even just reading it, you know, I try not to read slow in my own brain, but it feels slow at times. Like it just feels very heavy. It feels very methodical. And I think that's also part of J.R. Ward's style, is that she's just very methodical, and she comes with those details, and she comes with those jokes, and she comes, you know, adding in all the stuff to make it really flavorful. But there's also just a lot going on with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of dialogue as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much like, you know, how some authors really dig in with the logistics of it and the environment of it. Not so much there, but she is a heavy dialogue person. They talk incessantly.
They do. Yes, that is very true. Yeah. But she does talk a lot, not necessarily about the environment, but she mentions Caldwell all the time. Like, I'm sure there are over 1,000 mentions of the word Caldwell in this book, just because that's the city they're in. She talks about how it's cold, how it's going to snow, how the traffic, like it's not, you hear that word a lot, Caldwell, or that name a lot. And you're just like, okay, can we stop?
You know, I never bothered to look to see if that was a real city in New York.
Is it?
I don't know. I'm going to Google it, because if it is, I almost want to go there. I'm like, she loves that place. Like, what is it? If it's a real place, let's see what Google says. Caldwell is a borough located in northwestern Essex County, New Jersey, about 16 miles west of New York City and 6 miles northwest of, let me click the rest, northwest of Newark. So
I thought she kept saying Caldwell, New York.
She did, but maybe she took Caldwell, New York. Well, maybe she took Caldwell and put it in New York. Writer's thing, you know what I mean? So
yeah, that's true.
But it's not showing up in New York. It's weird. No. But here, wait. So Caldwell, New Jersey, and it have images and everything, and it is very close to New York. They have the New York skyline. It's really close. I don't know. They have the Caldwell Apartments in New York, New York.
Maybe after COVID's over, we can go on a road trip and go exploring.
I know. Let's see if we can find some vampires and demons and stuff.
Stay away from the demons.
Yeah, maybe the fallen angels. Let's find the fallen angels. They're around.
Yeah, they're around. They're better.
Cool. Yeah. So anyway, that was an interesting diversion. Like, okay, let's get back on the road.
Let's get back on the road. Okay. So what else did you love about this book?
I actually like the ending, believe it or not. It left me wanting more. So obviously, round one goes to Jim. His flag goes up. He wins. And it turns out that the choice was not Vin's choice. It was his choice. And his choice was, do I jump in front of the gun and save Marie Therese or not? And he did. And he's never done, Mr. I'm a killer. He saved someone. So, did you like the ending?
I did. I really did. But I have a question, and this will probably get answered in the next book, but I want to voice this right now. So Jim dies a second time, but he dies for real. So everybody in the world thinks he's like truly dead. They have a body, they're going to bury him, yada, 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 but he's still a fallen angel. Does that mean Matthias still has to send him on his mission to go kill the other person? Or like, can he just be dead because he's dead and there's a body?
You know what?
So he kind of talked about like, hey, I have to go to Boston to go do this thing. And they're like, yeah, sure. But I was like, but you're dead.
You're dead.
You don't have to do the thing, which he talked about earlier. He was like, I wish I could just be dead and not have to work for the government anymore. And I don't know. And that was the one weird part about the ending.
You know, that's true. Is he dead or not dead? Well, he's definitely dead. His body was there. He saw his own body. His body is definitely dead. He's definitely walking around with the angels. And I think he can be visible when needed, you know, just like the angels are. But I don't know how Matthias, that guy, ties into it, unless maybe Matthias isn't Matthias. Maybe he's Davina.
Ooh, I never thought of that.
And if he is Davina, then he's not escaping. She knows about him. So,
ooh, that puts her in a very powerful place. Because didn't he say Matthias was like just as powerful as the SOB in the White House or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Because they're like, you know, he was going around killing people for the government. Like he's assassin level. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Or maybe Matthias will pop up later as one of the sins that he has to solve. Even if he's not coming to work for him, maybe he'll show up again in that respect. I just feel like we're not done with that character.
Yeah. No, I don't think we're done with him either. I just thought it was weird that Jim was like, I still have to go fulfill this promise and this mission that I didn't really want, but I have to do. And I'm dead. So they can't really, you know, come after me. What are they going to do? Kill me again?
Right. Girl, right. Like, I don't know. It's
that
weird.
Was the only weird. Yeah, that was the only weird thing. But otherwise, I loved it. I really liked that Jim was, you know, proud of himself, and he's still thinking about that one girl who was brutally murdered by Davina, and he's like, I'm going to avenge her because nobody's out here to avenge her, and I can do it.
Yeah,
he's ready to go save some more souls.
Yeah, so. Like, and that is the entryway. We know that whatever Davina has got going on, he is like, come on, bitch, let's fight. He is ready. He's ready to take her on. And the other stuff, I think it's going to be testing him constantly. So like this was a soul he saved, but it was also a test for him. So I have a feeling there are more and more tests for him specifically.
Oh, definitely.
You know? Because again, even though he's technically dead now, they're still not telling him everything. They're still not. Let me help you.
Adrian wouldn't even tell them what he did to Davina, which wasn't a hell of a lot because he got beaten up and chained up and tied to a chair and like.
Girl, okay, so I do kind of know what I remember what Davina does a little bit. I'm not going to tell you, but I'm no like spoilers. When it came through, like when I saw her in the BDB series, because that whole, you know, people have been, you know, ruminating over a crossover. When, and a couple books ago in the BDB books, I think it was 2 books now. I don't know. I'm behind 1 book at least. She's like showed up, and I knew it. I'm like, this bitch, I knew it, because how it ended, and then how she kind of appeared, because it was this whole thing about what happened with one of these characters. He was delving into some magic shit he shouldn't have been doing. He did something and he ended up somewhere he shouldn't have been. And I'm like, oh, and he's describing what's happening to him. And he's not saying who, but I'm like, that is Davina. Only Davina would do that to someone. It's just crazy. And then it ended up being her. I was like, yes, I was right. Because I'm like, only her is that gross. Only she is that gross. Only she tortures people in this way. So when it comes up, you're going to be like, oh my God. It's not good. It's not good, but it's to come. Much to come. Oh, geez. That is one of the hardest villains I've read in a long time.
She is just nasty. Like that's the only way to describe her.
Yeah, and I like that because I don't feel like every villain has to have this stupid
Redemption.
reason why they're right. No one sometimes it's like, oh, they're like this because of their childhood, or they're like this because no, they fucking crazy and evil. And that's it. Sometimes that's it. But she's still interesting to read because she has so many things she's able to do.
Yes.
So that keeps it interesting, even though she doesn't have this complex history about, whatever. No, and some people don't get redeemed, and I'm good with that too.
Villains don't need to be redeemed. They don't need a redemption arc. And yes, they can just be pure evil for evil's sake. And that's what Davina is. She's a fucking demon who is going to wreak havoc in every possible way, like pretending that Vin beat her up and putting herself in the hospital because he, quote unquote, beat her up. She goes after the crazy stalker guy and fucks him in the back of a taxi just so, she has somebody else to control. She just wants power and souls and everything she can possibly take.
She wants minions. She wants control of them. And that's that. And I think J.R. Ward did a good job keeping her, especially in the first book. I think she did a good job with a slower reveal about her being a demon. It wasn't bam in your face, I'm a demon. But when the revelation came out, it was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Of course she is. Of course she is.
There were tiny, tiny hints of it early on where people would think that they saw like a cloud around her or a shadow on her back. And they're like doing double takes going, wait a second. Yeah. And then no, she just looks absolutely perfect and pristine and put together. And I'm like, no, she's just a perfect lady. I imagined it. I'm seeing spots in my eyeballs. I'm going crazy, Yeah. And then when it came out that she was a demon and she was, in this evil this whole time, and they're like, oh yeah, should have trusted my eyeballs.
Well, I don't think humans and it's like, I think this stuff is fiction, right? Like, I do think that there's good and evil. Obviously, we see serial killers every day. There's clear good and evil, and there are ghosts. I think there are ghosts.
Ghosts are real. Yes, they are.
But in our normal day-to-day world, if you see something odd, most people are more apt to just write it off as something else instead of being like, holy shit, what did I just see? It's easier to excuse it as something else or think you missaw or misheard or whatever than to kind of open that door. Because once you open it, it's hard to close it, Yep.
Yeah. You can't close it.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this case of this book, like those little hints were there, but I like that they were like, well, maybe not.
They dismissed it. Yeah, no, that felt very authentic to every person, Yeah. If I see something dark out of the corner of my eye, I'm not going to think that there's a demon there. I'm going to be like, oh, I'm seeing shadows. Move on. Let me go eat my pizza. Let me do whatever I'm supposed to do.
Exactly.
But no, exactly. I liked that J.R. Ward incorporated those tiny details. So it wasn't a huge plot twist, but it was still a big plot twist. Like, oh, she is evil. She's not this scared lady in a blue dress.
Yeah.
She's not a hungry powerhouse, whatever.
She's the worst, the absolute worst. But yeah, so I was down for it. I think, is there any more we should cover before we rate the book? What do you think?
I mean, there is so much in this book. It is a giant ass book. We could talk for another hour easily, but I think we've covered all the top hot topics.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think let's rate it. Because there's so much. You guys got to dive in for yourselves and come back to us on Shelf Addiction Official or join us on book clubs with a Z. The links are in the show notes, and let us know what you thought, right? Because we're continuing this series. We are going to go on. So you have more than enough time to catch up, and we're starting book 2. And tell us all the things after you read it. We can have more chats about it.
Definitely. Always.
So my rating is a 4 out of 5. It was 4 out of 5 10 years ago, 12 years ago. It's a 4 out of 5 now. It held up for me. I'm super excited about that. Yeah, I love it. So what about you?
It's also a 4 out of 5 for me. This was my first time reading it, but I loved it. Like, it was so much fun. It was so different. It had so many plots going on, but it didn't feel overwhelming. I was able to easily follow them. And actually, it makes me want to get back into J.R. Ward. So maybe I'll go back to Dark Lover myself and start over. Around a little bit, but
wait till you're done with this, though, because
yes.
I don't want you to be like, all I want to read are BDB books. And
I'm like, screw you, Tamara.
You're so involved. I mean, honestly, her stuff is all like, not all consuming, but like when you're in it, you're in it. And it's like,
yes.
Like there gets to be a point where you need a break from her.
This is true. Okay.
And this series is kind of long, so yeah.
I'll wait, but I am ready to go back for the first time in like 10 fucking years. I'm ready to go back. So yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad this stimulated that for you. So that's exciting. So you guys, book 2 is Crave, Fallen Angels, book 2. Join the groups. You have the links. Meet us here again. Yes. And if you just really don't have time for book club, you can find us right here on the podcast. So that is it for today. If you are still listening to the sounds of our voices, we appreciate you for listening to the entire episode. We love that. There is an after show available on Patreon right now. If you are interested, head over and sign up. Until next time, happy reading. Take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.
Everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction Official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction Podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven Network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.